tonight for the jury.
So it appears that I got carried away this morning with the rest of my docket. That's why we're starting an hour late. So now I guess I owe you 2 Mexican hours. Are we ready now to get back to work? And who is our next witness?
Sergeant McCarthy.
And ma'am, do you swear from the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
What is your first name?
Rebecca, R-E-B-E.
Hold on.
R-E-B-E-C-C-A.
Okay.
MacArthur, M-A-C-A-R-T-H-U-R.
Thank you. Have a seat and please speak loud.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you tell the jury where you work and what your assignment is with your agency?
I work for the Michigan State Police, and I'm currently assigned to the Metro Post, which is in Oak Park.
And what is your job there?
I'm a detective sergeant. We're coined post detectives.
And how long have you held the post detective position?
I've been there since 2013.
And what was your assignment before that?
Prior to that, I worked in computer crimes for about 8 years. I was in Livonia, and then I was out in Rockford, which is near Grand Rapids.
And what did you do? Was that all computer crimes, those different locations?
Yes, Livonia and Rockford was computer crimes.
We saw a detective who testified earlier talking about some of the evidence recovered from some of the phones and computers, in this case, Detective Higginson. Are you familiar with Detective Higginson?
Yes, I met Wade when he first came to work for us,
All right.
which was 2004, I believe.
And when you say work for us, he indicated he works for municipal police department. Are you talking about a task force?
Well, our team.
Okay. And what team was that?
Well, it's computer crimes unit / internet crimes against children.
Okay. And how long have you been with the state police in total?
27 years now.
I want to direct your attention now to the case that we're here in court on. How did you initially become involved in the investigation?
I got the call. It was about 10 o'clock. I was kind of far away from the scene. I made it out to the scene about midnight.
So the night April was found, you were on the scene?
Yes, I was there.
And were you still there at the time April was still there?
Yes, when I arrived, the lab was out there. Newmeyer, the fire department, had secured the scene along with other officers and some of the troopers. And so I had to wait. And then after a while, the ME's office, Dr. Pietrangelo showed up.
You recall seeing Dr. Pietrangelo out there?
Yes.
Examining April and the scene herself?
Yes.
Did you actually yourself go into the scene at any point and view for yourself?
Yes. After the lab was completely finished doing what they do, and before Pietrangelo started taking her pictures, and of course their job is to take the body, so before she took possession of the body, I looked at the scene and saw April.
And we've heard a fair amount of testimony already from Chief Smith about how your agencies work together over the course of time. Suffice to say, you worked with the Armada Police Department?
Yes, we were there to assist them.
As well as did the FBI come to assist?
Yes, they came out.
And other teams, Crimes Against Children team came out?
The FBI team was Southeastern Crimes Against Children. We also had our major case unit, which is a task force in itself, and we had our Inkster task force come out.
And then other troopers and detectives like Detective Peckman, Sergeant Peckman now?
Yes.
All right. I don't want to go through the entire investigation with you because, again, we've heard a lot of that with Chief Smith, but certain things have come up during the course of the trial and the investigation that I do want to talk to you about, some specific things. And I guess one housekeeping matter first. Earlier on in the trial, there was a video that was depicted as a GoPro video of the trail. Do you recall seeing that?
Yes.
And at one point, there's this sort of orange triangle, like traffic sign or emergency sign down along the trail as the GoPro went along. Just tell the jury what that was.
Well, that was my triangle out of the trunk of my car. We put it there to show where the crime scene was as opposed to the Liberty Trail and where this tunnel of trees starts and ends, if you will.
Okay. So the jury watches that video if they choose. That little triangle depicts the area where back into the woods April was found.
Correct.
Okay. A couple of other things have come up. Are you familiar with the town of Armada, and maybe more so as this case has been investigated over these months?
Yes.
And are you familiar with Church Street?
Yes.
Armada Ridge?
Yes.
And the location, relatively speaking, of the Macomb Orchard Trail?
Yes.
And where Donald VanCallis' house is related to all those points?
Yes.
I think it's Exhibit 33. Is that the overall? All right, can you step down and point out for me on there where Church Street is, where the Marathon is?
West.
Okay.
Okay, this is Main Street here, which is also Armada Ridge if you keep going outside of town. This is Fulton Street or North Avenue as you go out of town.
Okay. And where's Church?
Church Street is here, which dead ends into Depot Street, and the trail, Armada, or the Orchard Trail is actually right adjacent to it at this point.
So Depot and the trail are very parallel?
Yes, at this point.
And Church Street looks like it ends at Depot Street.
Yes, it does right here.
If one were to drive down Church Street, they would have to make a right or a left on Depot?
Right, you have to come down here, and you cannot go any further. You have to turn right or left.
All right. And if a person wanted to, say, turn right to head over to Fulton and then continue southbound on Fulton, could a person do that?
Yes, just like this.
And then they could go down to a mile road and then take that road over to Donald VanCallis' house?
You have 33 Mile Road, and then Donald lives on 33 Mile Road.
Knowing that, are you aware, and there's been some discussions about cameras and things in town, we saw some security footage from the Marathon. Do you recall seeing that?
Yes.
Did you review yourself other security footage from the area down by Fulton Street and Depot Street?
Yes, of course, initially when we were sending everyone out looking for video, we also had to make video from, there was a car wash here, which is on the east side of Fulton, and Larry's Towing, which is on the west side of Fulton, which is, they're both south of Depot Road.
So do you recall there being some testimony about a motorcycle going southbound on Church Street and perhaps that motorcycle wanting to continue on towards Donald VanCallis' house?
Right. If one were to go to Church Street, they'd have to turn right on Depot and then left onto Fulton heading southbound, and they would cross the path of those cameras.
Now, a person, to be fair, let me take this from you for a second, but stay here if you would. If this motorcycle is going down here, they could go around the block, so to speak, and then go right out. Is that right?
Sure. Yeah.
Or they could go around a bigger block and then go all the way back up to here and then go out.
Correct.
They could probably drive around all over in here for a while. But if one was going down Church Street to Depot to Fulton down to the Mile Road, this would be the route?
Yes.
Correct? And show the jury again where those two security cameras were.
Fulton Road, south of Depot, right here in this area, just east of Fulton is the car wash. And the granary is actually right next to that.
Where does the video camera point for the car wash?
Well, it has several cameras. One of the cameras is a bay of the car wash, you know, where you wash your car.
Okay.
It's literally like facing straight out.
Straight out in what direction? I mean, there's north, south, east, west.
This Fulton Road.
It shows Fulton Road?
Yes.
So if a motorcycle had driven south on Fulton Road to go down to the Mile Road to then go out, would that camera have caught that?
Yes, absolutely.
Did you review that footage?
I did.
Did you re-review that footage?
I did. Yeah.
Did you ever see that motorcycle going past that camera going southbound on Fulton Street?
There is no motorcycle heading south. Now we're talking at 6:18 and after. I reviewed the video 10 minutes before, 10 minutes after, but we know that the time on this camera at Marathon gas station is right on the money, if you will, maybe a couple seconds off. So 6:18, if you have to come down here, you know, give or take even 5 minutes to be liberal. I checked the video at this time, and there's no motorcycle heading south.
What about the video footage from across the street? Did you check that video
That's
footage?
Larry's toe. Now Larry's toe, instead of facing straight out, perpendicular to Fulton, it angles more towards the north, capturing this intersection, both Fulton Road, but more at it's higher, it's at an angle. You can see actually almost Church Street, but not quite. You can see some of the path coming through here. But you can clearly see Fulton Street.
Did you see in that video any motorcycle going southbound 10 minutes before or after?
No, there's no motorcycle coming out of there.
All right. All right, you can go ahead and sit down, and I'll probably have you get back up again later, but you can take that down. Another issue that has come up in this case is some phone calls made from the phone of April Millsap at right around the time that it appears she was assaulted and killed. You familiar with those 3 phone calls?
Yes.
Those 3 phone calls come in pretty rapid succession. Would you agree?
Yes, within a couple of minutes.
Do you recall what the first 3 digits of the phone number dialed were?
810.
First of all, do you know who had the phone in their hand at the time those 3 phone calls were made?
No.
Did you try to ascertain who had that number on the other end? Like, in other words, who was the number dialed to? Did you try to figure that out?
Of course.
What did you do?
Well, we did a search warrant on the company, which was basically Talk America. It goes under a couple aliases. It's Windstream, Cavalier, or Talk America. And we did a search warrant with them.
And did you find out who that number was assigned to? In other words, a name or a business?
They said it was not subscribed to anybody. It was not one of their. It was their phone, but no one currently was using it.
That piece of information, to this day as we sit here, you don't have an answer for who was called. Is that accurate?
Correct. Now we also check, our databases, or, we have police reporting systems. We checked that also to see if maybe someone had said they had that phone number. There was nothing that showed up.
There was a lot of evidence gathered in this case from phones and computers from a number of individuals, including April Millsap and the defendant, James VanCallis. There were subscriber records, is that correct?
Yes,
There
call
were
detail records.
Historical call detail records that we heard Special Agent Hess testify about.
Yes.
And again, just for the record, what are those records? What do they actually show?
Incoming, outgoing calls, text messages, yes, and times, dates.
Okay. You also actually had physical phones, like a number of phones, like someone's cell phone that the information was taken out of and that you could review. Is that correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And in there's at least a certain number of phone calls available to review. Is that correct?
Correct. Everything that's on that phone, that's basically copied off, we can look at.
How far back did the call detail records go that you reviewed for April Millsap and for James VanCallis?
Back to January 2014.
The first 3 digits being an 810 call. Tell me how many phone calls you saw April Millsap place to an 810 number from her call detail records and her cell phone itself.
There was just one 810 call.
Did she call it?
No, it was incoming, and it doesn't look like it was accepted.
There was one call made to her from an 810 number.
Yes, that's it.
Was it the same digits beyond the 810?
No. Same digits as the unknown phone call?
As the unknown phone call, those
yes.
3 calls.
Just the 810.
Did you look at James VanCallis's?
Yes.
Did you find 810 phone calls made or received in James VanCallis's phone?
Yes. I mean, his number starts with 810, and there was many, many 810 numbers on his phone records.
It was pointed out earlier that you could have an 810 number and be living in Nebraska, but you'd still have your 810 cell phone. Is that correct?
Correct.
So I understand, and I suppose you understand, it doesn't necessarily mean where you live, who you're talking to. Is that also accurate?
Yes.
But you indicated you saw many 810 numbers made and received from James VanCallis?
Absolutely.
Did you actually see those other 7 digits, though, either made or received from him?
No.
As you indicated already, you had an opportunity or an occasion, I guess, as officer in charge of the case, or co-officer in charge of the case with Chief Smith, to review evidence.
Yes.
You indicated already that amongst those things you reviewed is the defendant's cell phone. Is that correct?
Correct.
And there were several of his phones seized. Was there another phone seized by, in a search warrant, a Droid Bionic, in addition to his phone he was using, that was seized from the front area that Detective LeMay testified about? Was there also a Droid Bionic phone seized by law enforcement from that Ford Explorer?
Yes.
I'm going to show you a picture that I've shown counsel, and it is marked as People's Proposed 179, and ask if you recognize that as a photo from the defendant's phone.
Yes, I do.
I would move to admit 179.
No objection, Your Honor.
It's admitted.
Before it's displayed, can you just tell the jury what it's a picture of?
It's a picture of James VanCallis.
And is there sunlight on him?
Yes, there is.
Could you just show the jury that, please? And that's a picture you observed in his phone?
Correct.
All right. Okay. Thank you. During the course of the investigation, we heard Jennifer Summers indicate that she reviewed, I think she said, at least 80 pieces of evidence for possible DNA or other trace evidence. Is that correct?
Correct.
And we also heard from Monica Barilski and Andrea Halverson-Young about some DNA testing. But I want to make, for the juries, to be clear here, because we heard, for instance, about a red leash. We've heard a leash talked about several times in this case, and there was DNA testimony about a leash. And to your knowledge, was the leash that April was using to walk Penny, has that ever been identified as having been recovered yet in this case?
No, we never found it.
Now, there was a red leash taken by law enforcement in a search warrant, is that right?
Correct.
And it was tested.
Yes.
And we heard the DNA results. We're not going to go back over that. But that leash, was that ever identified by her mother as being the leash?
No, she said that's not the one.
Okay. We also heard about a second helmet that was seized by law enforcement. Is that the helmet that Crystal Stadler testified that on occasion she would wear if she was ever on that motorcycle?
Yes.
That's not the Raider helmet that we've been showing to the jury throughout the case.
Right, that's a different one.
A couple of other things that were mentioned by the DNA witnesses I just want to clear up, and I think the fingerprint expert maybe. There was a black glove or two black gloves that were tested for DNA. Tell the jury where those came from, please, because there was testimony about them.
Yeah, that was actually a tip that we received from a woman in town. She came to Armada Police Department and said that some guy basically came to her door who wanted to buy her camper, and at some point gives her these gloves in a little plastic bag and says, I found them on Omo, and maybe they belong to the Millsap murder case. And he didn't want to turn them in. He told her, you know, do what you will, I guess. And so she brings them in and tells us the story. So
you sent them on to get tested?
Yep.
And they never had any DNA on them that linked them in any way to this case?
Well, April's DNA was not found on that, so we can't tie it in.
All right. There was mention of a cigarette butt cutting and some Ziploc baggy pieces. Were those items found along the trail during the searches by law enforcement?
Right, that was seized initially by the lab on the night of.
Okay. And again, those didn't end up having, I guess, well, the lab evidence speaks for itself. I don't need you to characterize it. There was a black T-shirt that was seized that there was testimony from Ms. Barilski about regarding some semen. Was that a piece of evidence seized from the defendant's residence, that black T-shirt?
Yes.
And ultimately, we know what the DNA results of that were. Same thing with some boxer shorts?
Yes.
Seized from the defendant's residence?
Yes.
There were a couple of other individuals mentioned that we haven't had explained to the jury yet, just to clear that up as well. We already heard, tell again the jury who Alex is in this case.
Alex is a friend of Austin, and Austin was a boyfriend of April.
All right. So their DNA was gathered and then used for comparison purposes as well?
Yes.
And we also have heard testimony from former Trooper Magrosian, now retired Trooper Swift, about that McDonald's video with Austin and Alex at 6:31 or 3, I think it was.
Correct.
There were two other names mentioned in the case that I can recall. One of them was Mr. Parole, Timothy P-A-R-O-L. Tell the jury who that is.
Timothy Parole was a friend of Alex's that they came across when the investigators were out getting Alex's clothes, etc. And they just thought it would be a good idea to talk to him about if he knew April and etc., etc. And they asked him consent to take his DNA.
All right. And his DNA or fingerprints or shoes or nothing ever ended up matching any of your evidence in this case?
No, and he had an alibi for that time.
All right. There's other names that haven't been mentioned. We heard the chief testify to like 1,000 tips. I mean, you could probably start rattling names off that were investigated in this case. But these were mentioned in the trial, so I want the jury to hear who they are. There was another person named Lynch whose DNA was taken. Ultimately, did that person have any link to this case as far as you know, or any evidence led you to believe?
No, he did not.
All right. By the way, as we sit here today, has law enforcement recovered those Flight to Jordan or Flight to Power Air Jordan shoes that we've seen in some videos, and we're going to see in some more in a minute?
No.
What about the Carhartt hoodie as described by Crystal Stadler? Has that been recovered?
No.
Have you looked?
Yes, we looked.
So I want to talk now a little bit more about some evidence of when these shoes, and some pictures, more pictures of these shoes. I'm going to start with a video from the Droid Bionic phone seized from the Ford Explorer and ask, do you recall observing a video and this being a screenshot from that video?
Yes.
And you've actually viewed that prior to coming into court?
Yes, I did.
I would move to admit people's proposed 180 and 181.
No objection, Your Honor.
Could we show 180, the actual photo first, please? Then we'll play the video. Do you see that? Oh, absolutely. Judge, I'm just going to turn this a little bit past all this stuff. And that's a screen grab from this short video clip we're going to play in a moment. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, could you play the video then, which is 181? I should say video clip. All right. I'm going to show you now another screen. Actually, Craig, could you just put that back up just at the very beginning? You pause it right after it begins. Can you pause it? Can you tell the date, at least as it was captured by the digital device, or displayed by the digital device?
The date here says 11/24/2013.
Okay. All right, I'm going to show you now what I have marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 182 and 183, and ask, well, first of all, so screen grab from it. Did you view another video from the defendant's phone, and then this being a screen grab of it? We've viewed many videos, correct?
Yes.
All right, one in particular where it appears somebody is in a car wearing shoes that are going to be depicted to the jury in a moment that appear similar to the Flight of Powers.
Yes.
Do you recognize this as being a screen grab from that video?
Yes.
And you viewed that video prior to coming to court?
Yes.
I would move to admit 182 and 183.
No objection, Your Honor.
Which one is which?
182 is the picture, screen grab. 183 is the video clip. Could you put 182 up, please? This being the picture. Could you, Craig, using, I don't know if you can do that or not with this, can you go right here? I'm going to ask you, while that is there, and I want to make sure the jury can see it, if you would take, now this is one of the, I guess, representative samples, and this is People's Exhibit 159. Could you take one of the shoes out? Just one. You don't need them both. Can you hold this shoe to the side? And then could you show the jury that shoe? They can look at it later, but I want them to see it now. I'll do it. Could you then play 183? Do we see the shoes again in a moment?
Yes.
Right there. Just
1 second.
It went down in the middle and in the beginning.
Yep.
All right, Mr. Sheik can stay right there because I'm going to do one more. I'm going to show counsel first, and this one is a little bit fuzzier and it's a shorter clip, and this is a screen grab from a video taken from his phone. By the way, could you put that video back up so I can get the date from that? You can pause it. Do you have the date?
4/23/2014.
Thank you. All right, I'm showing you now a photograph and then a disc. Do you recognize that to be a screen grab from a very short video clip taken from the defendant's phone?
I do.
Now, this one's a little bit blurrier, but you can see, you viewed this.
Right, you can clearly see the white tip and the black part.
All right. I move to admit 184 and 185, 184 being the photograph, 185 being a short video clip.
No objection, Your Honor.
You're admitted.
Could you display 184, please? And this is a little bit, could you turn on our light just so I can... We have this here in the foreground.
Yes, here's the shoe.
Okay. And let's play, we may play this once or twice because it's short. 185, please. You kind of see it right in the middle. It's a short video. Looks like there's hands, maybe, or knuckles or something up there on the top right now.
Yeah, it looks like a finger here.
It's about it's a 3-second clip. Could you play it again? Right there, okay. What's the date of that one?
This is 6/18/2014.
Could you put back up 182, please? I think that's our photograph in the second video, screen grab. I may have given you the wrong. I was looking for the middle video.
You want the video?
No, screen grab from the middle video. Flash. You may need to look at this head on because I'm going to ask you a question about it. Do you recognize what's on the right side right here? Do you have any idea or opinion as to what that is?
That's the helmet. The Raider helmet looks just like it.
All right. And again, that is from the 4/23/14 video. Is that correct? That's the middle one we spoke of?
Yes.
Okay. All right, you can go ahead and turn our lights back on and take that down. I could ask you probably a lot of questions about all the things you did in this case. I know Mr. Sheik's going to ask you some questions, but especially from the screen grab from that middle video, do those shoes appear to you to be similar to the shoes that have been identified by Crystal in this case?
Yes.
And again, have those shoes ever been found?
No. He searched high and low for those shoes.
I don't have anything else. Thank you, sir.
Your Honor, I may be allowed with this witness. Would you like me to begin now or after lunch?
Are you hungry or you want to go for a half hour? I'll go for almost a half hour. Go for a half
Oh,
hour.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant that go to lunch for a half hour. I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Okay. Good morning, or good afternoon. Detective, how are you?
Good.
I think Mr. Daly did a great direct. And sometimes you have people and they just want to relive the whole trial. And I'm just going to ask you questions that are pertinent to me that may not have been covered by Mr. Daly or that I may not have be clear on. Is that okay?
That's okay.
So I might hop all over, and that's no intention to try to confuse you or anything, okay?
Okay.
Now, we've had testimony from the chief and others, I believe, that there was approximately 1,000 tips that came into this case regarding leads, correct?
Correct.
Okay. How many of those, to the best of your recollection, had to do with Mr. James VanCallis?
Well, the first tip obviously was when Peckman drove by and saw his bike at Muse's. After that, we had a couple of tips come in. Someone who knew him said he looked like the composite. I think we had a couple after that where I think random people saw it on Facebook or something and said he looks like the composite. And then, of course, anything to do with the witnesses could technically be considered a tip about him.
Okay, there's no direct tip that indicated that anybody saw Mr. VanCallis per se with April Millsap on July 24 on the trail, correct? No tip of that nature came in, right?
But we have witnesses, 2 witnesses say that.
Well, other than the witnesses that we've heard from, there's no tips that came in, correct? Are you talking about Reschke and Stein and Buchanan?
Mary Stein and
And
William Buchanan.
Right. Other than that, though, there's no other tips, correct, that tied anything having to do with Mr. VanCallis into this case? Out of those thousands of tips?
Well, everything I explained.
Okay, well, do you have your tips here with you?
Yes.
Would it refresh you to look at them to see if there's any that...
Well, all the tips on James VanCallis were entered under one tip number. First of all, the tip number on him was 58, when
58.
Ray Peckman saw him. After that time, we started a lead on him. So all of our reports on him go into my report. So per se, we don't call them a tip anymore. It's just called a lead. So my report covers all of that.
All right, so the fact that Trooper Peckman had some information that there may be a blue and white motorcycle involved in this case and happened to see that parked at Muse's driveway and brought that to the attention of his fellow troopers, that's considered a tip, correct?
That's tip 58, yeah.
That's tip number 58, okay. And then subsequent to that, he became a lead, and then everything else came into that category. Is that what you're saying?
Right, then my police report became the information.
Okay. So nowhere else in that box of tips that you have, is there anything indicating any tie between Mr. VanCallis and this incident, correct?
Right, everything that came in on him, I put in my police report.
Oh, okay, all right. Now, were you present when the dump was searched, where the 16 bags were taken to landfill?
No, I was not there.
Okay, do you know how long that dump site was searched?
2 days.
Do you know if they found, how many of the 16 bags they found?
I'm sorry?
Do you know how many of the 16 bags they found?
16 bags of what?
Well, I think we heard some testimony that there were 16 bags that were asked to be picked up for special pickup. Does that ring a bell?
Right. Right, yep.
And did they search through all 16 of those bags?
I don't know if they actually found those bags.
Well, would it help you to look at your file? Do you have your notes and et cetera with you?
Well, I have my report. I don't know if they could ever say these are for sure the bags that came from the VanCallis house. There was nothing in those bags that uniquely said this is from the VanCallis household.
Okay, so when they went out to the dump, for lack of a better word, where these debris bags were taken, were they given some indication as to where, in what general area, what grid
Yes,
the VanCallis family trash would be?
Yes, they gave them an estimate of where it would be.
Okay, and then, do you know how many people searched in that area?
I wasn't out there, I can't say.
Two or more, or significantly more than two?
I really don't. I think there was a team of people, that'd be safe to say.
And do you know how long they searched?
2 days.
Yeah, but you know, like 2 8-hour days, 2 2-hour days, 4-hour days?
I don't know. I don't know.
Would it refresh you to look at anything in your notes to give you an idea?
I wasn't out there. I'm not even sure if they specify the length of hours, total number of hours. It was a long search.
Okay, suffice it to say nothing that has been presented to the jury or that's an evidentiary value in this case came from that dump, correct?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Nothing, whatever came or didn't come out of that search, whether they found the 16 bags or not, nothing from that search became evidence in this court case, correct?
They took some items, but it never came of anything. There was no connection to our case.
Okay, so let me repeat if you don't mind. Nothing of evidentiary value that has been introduced here or that the prosecution is going to argue has evidentiary value came out of that dump search. Is that correct?
Correct.
I know we've talked about this a lot of times, but there has been no DNA, fingerprints, hair, fiber, tracks of any sort that have directly tied Mr. VanCallis in with April Millsap. Is that correct? We have the interpretations of the shoe people, we have the interpretation of the cell phone people, etc., but there's nothing directly that came back in terms of a report indicating a connection. Is that correct?
Well, you're talking about no DNA. If we break it down with
Okay.
DNA.
DNA prints,
Prints, no.
hair,
No.
fiber,
No.
tracks other than the interpretation by your associate as to the tracks made by the shoe
You're
print.
talking
but
about motorcycle
no
tracks?
motorcycle tracks or any other footprints at the scene, correct?
There were no footprints at the scene.
Okay.
Except for, I wouldn't call them a footprint, the tread marks on her face.
Okay. Other than that, as far as any normal tracks that we see, like from the motorcycle tread or anything else like that, correct?
Correct.
Now, just so that, ladies and gentlemen of the jury are clear, let's talk about a couple of things that were presented. A Fitbit app was presented which was tied into an animation, correct?
Correct.
And we had testimony that the FBI agents basically produced that from information that they got, correct? It wasn't something that they downloaded or something that came into them and said, here, look at this. It's something they created from the information that they had, correct?
Well, they downloaded it from her phone.
Well, they downloaded the Fitbit app, but the animation that they created was something that they created, correct?
They created from the points on her phone, the download from her phone, then they imported it into Google Maps.
Okay, would I be misleading if I said that the animation that the jury saw was created by the FBI
Right,
agents?
that animation was not on her phone, but the data on the path was there.
Are you having difficulty indicating that that was created by the FBI agents, the animation
The
itself?
animation itself, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Now, as far as the motorcycle that we saw yesterday in the Jason Abro video, where he came in and he testified, he took one to try to recreate the situation?
Yes.
Okay. That was obviously a recreation, right? Using his own words. He took the motorcycle...
I would call it a test.
A test, okay.
Right.
And that was done under conditions that people sought to replicate, but it wasn't exact conditions, correct?
I'd say they were pretty close.
Well, they attempted to, as they indicated, to match the shadows up, the timing and everything, correct?
Correct.
But it was not an exact match, correct? It was still an attempt, no matter what you do, it would be an attempt at recreation, correct?
I think the conditions look pretty close.
Okay. That's your opinion, correct?
Yes.
Now, as far as, I believe it was Trooper Cervenek. Was he a trooper or detective?
No, he's a civilian.
Oh, he's a civilian, okay. He's the fellow that came in and testified about the shoes, correct?
Yes.
Now, if I recall correctly, he was given approximately 11 pairs of shoes, correct?
Well, I think there was 5 from VanCallis household. We had Austin, Alex's, Parole's, so that's 8.
If his testimony was 10 or 11, would you dispute that, or do you think that could be right?
Plus the dump, there was a pair of shoes. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. What dump are you talking about, ma'am?
The dump you just referred to?
There was a pair of shoes
You're
recovered
right,
from that dump?
we took the shoes out of there.
Okay, what type were they?
They were Old and tattered, I don't recall what brand they were.
Do you know what size they were?
Not offhand, no.
Do you know what make they were?
Nope.
I think I asked you, you said you don't know what size or make, right?
Correct.
Do you know if there's a way to tell if they were male shoes or female shoes?
I'm sure by looking at them, you could probably tell.
And do you have a picture of those shoes here with you in your reports?
Not printed out. I have a terabyte of information on my drive.
Okay. Do you remember what color they were?
White?
And did they have any black in them?
No.
Just pure white?
Yes.
Was any follow-up done on these shoes?
We sent them to the lab.
Okay. And they came back with no evidentiary value, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, of the 11, let's just say for sake of argument, 10 or 11 shoes that the Civilian Servant Act looked at, he eliminated 10 of them, right, if you use the figure 11?
Correct.
Okay. And the one pair that he had left was a pair that was bought for the purposes of this investigation, correct?
Correct.
And that was bought after looking at the tread marks on the decedent, on April Millsap's body, correct?
They were bought in September.
Well, whenever they were born, they were, I'm not born, I'm sorry. Whenever they were bought because they, in the eyes of whomever bought them, thought that the tread may resemble what was on the body, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that's why they were turned over to Mr. Servant, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And his indication, as we know, is a 4 out of 5, whatever that means. I say 80%, Mr. Daly has to say something else. But bottom line is, on the scale of he has 1 to 5, 5 being close to elimination, he found him to be a 4, correct? Do you recall
they're
that?
marked as 4.
Okay. Now, as I think we referred to you as OIC without maybe spelling out for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what does OIC mean? What does that stand for?
Officer in charge.
Okay, and as officer in charge, you indicated you got the call at about 10 o'clock on July 24, 2014 about this matter, correct?
Correct.
You made the scene at about midnight, correct?
Correct.
And you have been involved, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, the jury have seen throughout this entire case, correct?
I'm sorry.
You have been
You're
involved
talking
with this
pretty
case.
Fast. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
You're talking very fast.
Okay,
I'm
sorry. You have been involved ever since that day in this case, correct?
Correct.
And the OIC is almost like the hub that puts things together, right? I mean, if Mr. Daly or Mr. Cataldo were to ask you to either find something or to bring something to their attention, arrange for a witness, you would do that, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, in coming across all your information, did you come to find out that there was a raid at Mr. VanCallis' house?
Yes, there was a search warrant at his house.
Search warrant, okay, search warrant executed. Now, during that time period, lots of things were seized, correct?
Correct.
And do you know how many pairs of shoes were seized?
5.
5 pairs? These 5 pairs, were they male? If you know, were they shoes that they thought could be related to Mr. VanCallis, or did just, I mean, do you know if any of them were Brenda's shoes, his mother's?
We took the shoes. I think your question was, were they male shoes? That's your original question?
Yeah.
Yeah, those were male shoes.
Okay. And were there other shoes there that were not seized?
That, we, of course, when I briefed them that part of the morning, or we briefed them, we were told everyone we were looking for shoes. So I'm sure they looked at shoes.
Okay, but you can't, are you in a position to tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury that every pair of male shoes from that house on Marquette was seized?
No.
Are you in a position to tell the jury how many pairs of shoes were found in Mr. VanCallis' area, seized or not seized? We had some testimony yesterday from his brother that he had more shoes than a man should have. I don't know what that means, but bottom line is, if you have any recollection, do you recall seeing multiple pairs of shoes?
I wasn't there.
Well, I mean, from you've seen the reports and so forth, right, of the tabulation?
Correct.
Okay. And tabulation, for ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is what?
That's a list of everything that's taken from the house on the search warrant.
So the police go in, execute a search warrant, and then they write down exactly everything they took so everybody knows it's on the up and up, correct?
Right.
And that's basically called the tabulation?
Correct.
And that would have itemized the shoes and anything else, right?
Right, they itemized everything out of the house.
Okay. Now, did they also photograph things that were not seized?
Yes, they took photographs of everything coming into the search warrant.
Okay. And do
I
you...
think they took photos leaving the house also.
Okay. And Detective MacArthur, do you have any photographs of the living area of Mr. VanCallis showing shoes that were not seized, or just shoes?
I remember a pair of black shoes out in the yard. There was some shoes by some black shelf. I believe those were seized also. And beyond that, I don't recall if they were female shoes, or I don't recall seeing any other shoes that I said to myself, oh my God, they should have took those shoes.
Okay, the black shoes that you said were out by the yard, you don't know if they were seized or not, right?
There were shoes seized on the side of the yard. There's photographs of them.
Okay, but you don't know if those are the shoes, right, that you're talking about?
Yeah, those are the shoes.
Those
that
are
were
those,
seized.
okay. And then also the black shoes from the shelf, you indicated, right?
Correct.
What shelf is this? Is this a shelf in the living area, or?
I don't know where it is. It's a picture of some shoes by a black wire shelf.
Okay. Now, Detective MacArthur, in this particular case, we have kind of went back and forth as just did with that map that Mr. Daly had put up. Let's talk in terms of directions. You said you became familiar with Armada either through this investigation or just by working out there, right? So you're somewhat familiar with Armada?
Yes.
Okay. Just for sake of argument, the Marathon gas station, if you're looking at Armada, is probably on the northeast or in the middle of the city?
The Marathon is at the corner of Church and Main Street.
Okay. From there, Donnie's house is west, right?
Correct. If you continue down Main Street west,
Okay.
you hit Armada Ridge, which would run you right into Donnie's house.
Okay, now, without giving directions, just indicating the directions that I'm asking. In other words, here's the Marathon gas station, and Donnie's house is, in fact, to the west, correct? It is in the west. If you were to
Well,
look
you're
at
pointing
it,
directly west. It's actually, if you're pointing at it, it goes down like this.
but
so
even if it
that's
went down,
southwest.
it would still be called southwest. There would be some component, some iota of west in it, correct? It is in a westerly direction from the gas station, is that correct?
Yes.
It is also in a southerly direction from the gas station, correct?
That's what I said, southwest.
Southwest, okay. And that is the direction that this motorcycle goes in from the Marathon video, correct? Or at least, well, we know that it goes west, right? Initially goes east, turns around and heads west. Is that correct?
The motorcycle comes out of the gas station.
Right.
618. It turns east, then it comes back around west,
Right.
and then heads south on Church.
Well, we're going to talk about that. We're just trying to take this step by step.
Okay, sorry.
No, there's no reason for this already. Comes out at 618, heads east. We know there's a no left turn sign there, and then it turns and then it heads in a westerly direction, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then subsequent to that, on the second video, we see it's going south, correct?
Correct.
Now, both of those directions in and of itself are not inconsistent with going to Donnie's house, correct? Going west and going south, those in itself are not inconsistent with somebody going towards Donnie's house or towards the Romeo or Tim Horton. Is that correct?
If he's heading south on Church, he could continue. He'd have to turn right onto Torrey, Lathrop, or Depot to end up on Fulton. And then he'd have to turn left on Fulton to go south out of town to 33 Mile Road and then across to Donnie's.
Detective, I'm going to try to put this question as specifically as I can. I'm looking for a specific answer, and Mr. Daly will get back up here and ask you to expand as he wishes, okay? To get to Donnie's house, you would need to go west from the Marathon gas station, and that's what the video shows this motorcycle doing, correct?
Yes.
And the second portion of the video shows the motorcycle going south, which is also a direction, at least generally, that you would have to go into if you were going either to Donnie's house or to the Tim Hortons in Romeo, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I think you and I may have some differences as to all the different avenues that you could have taken, including stay on Armada Ridge Road or what streets you could turn over and stuff, but the general direction is undisputed, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, as part of this investigation, was any video looked at the Tim Hortons?
We took some Tim Hortons video. Actually was from Richmond. I called the Tim Hortons restaurant that's on the corner of, I think it's 32 and Van Dyke. And they said that their video was not working during the time period we were looking for, which was July 24th. And had been broken for a couple of weeks, apparently.
Okay. Detective, I'm really not that familiar with this whole entire area. So first, Richmond is, if here's Armada, which way is Richmond? Is it north, east, west, south?
Richmond is east from Armada.
East from Armada, okay. And I take it there's a Tim Hortons there, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The one that you just indicated at 32 in Van Dyke, is that, that's in Romeo?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know if there was any way at all for Mr. VanCallis to know that the video at Tim Hortons at 32 in Van Dyke was not working on that date when he told Detective Packman that he had went by there looking for his brother?
You're going to have to ask that question, like, simpler.
Okay. And it may be borderlining on speculation, but do you have any reason to believe that at the time in his initial interview with Trooper Packman, when Mr. VanCallis indicated that he drove by that Tim Hortons in Romeo at 32 in Van Dyke, that he had any information to believe that the video was inoperable?
The question is, did James VanCallis know if the Tim Hortons video at 32 and Van Dyke was not operational?
Right, at the time that he gave his statement to Trooper Packman.
Would he know? I don't.
But do you have any
no
reason
idea.
to know? I know you can't know 100% because none of us can know 100%.
I couldn't answer that question at all.
Okay. There's nothing in your file or nothing else that indicates that he knew. It's not like he used to work there part-time or he used to go there and repair videos.
The only information we had was that he drove through the parking lot
Okay.
of Tim Hortons in Romeo.
Now, we've heard some mention of Austin and Alex a couple of times, correct?
Yes.
Austin is a young man that was a boyfriend of April for a while, correct?
Correct.
And Alex is his, I don't know if he's his best friend, but he's a good friend of his, correct?
Correct.
And this Tim fellow is a friend of Alex's, right?
Correct.
Did there come a time that Alex and Austin invoked their right to counsel and refused to cooperate any further with this investigation?
They were, sorry.
I'm going to object. I think the answer can come out a little bit, but I would like to approach the counsel.
Good afternoon again. There came a time when Alex and Austin were cooperating with the police, correct?
Correct.
And there came a time when they invoked their right to counsel and indicated they did not want to cooperate further, correct?
Well, actually, it was Alex who, it was, I think, the Monday after they'd already been interviewed at length, that the father, Alex's father, said, you know, we're done talking. Or not exactly, I'm not saying verbatim what they said, but they said, we've given you enough information.
Okay, let me, just so that we can refresh the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, how old was Alex on or around September 24, 2014?
16.
16. So under Michigan law, his father would have had a say-so in cooperation or no further cooperation?
Right. I mean, even if he was 17, I'm sure the father would have been involved.
Okay. But I mean, if he was 19 or 20 and he wanted to talk to you and Dad said don't talk, it wouldn't have mattered because you could have talked to him, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So the fact his age did play a part into this because his father was the one that basically invoked on his behalf, correct?
Correct.
Now, were you privy to all the computers and the cell phones that were confiscated in this case? To the information that was had from them or that was gleaned from them?
Privy, you mean, did I look at them?
Yes.
Yes, I have copies of everything.
And you have, I think you indicated you have at least 8 years' experience dealing with computer forensics, correct?
I did. Now, it's been a couple years.
Okay. And as a matter of fact, that's how you and I first met, right? I had a computer forensics case and you were the YC on that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Detective MacArthur, we had some testimony that April got up around 1 or 2 o'clock on July 24 and spent a considerable amount of time on 1 or perhaps 2 computers until she left to walk Penny at about 5:30. Did you look at the computers in the household, in the Millsap household?
Wade Higginson analyzed those computers.
Okay, and how many computers did you find or were found at that home?
Several. A couple were, you know, we tried to differentiate whose computers who, obviously. So some belonged to Dad, some belonged to Mom, and I believe it was a computer and an external drive that belonged to April.
Okay, and was one of these computers in April's living area? If you know, if you recall.
I don't know exactly where they were taken from.
Okay. And they were analyzed, correct?
Yes.
Was any connection found, a Twitter, a Facebook exchange, a friend request, anything between April Dawn Millsap and James VanCallis?
No.
Now, were you also privy to the cell phone analysis?
Yes.
April's cell phone was taken into custody, for lack of a better word?
Yes.
Okay. And it was analyzed?
Yes.
Okay. And this was also done with Mr. VanCallis' cell phone, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And was there any indication that there had been ever any call, missed call, voicemail, text, anything at all between those 2 phones?
No.
Okay. Now, we've heard some testimony that Mr. VanCallis, the brother, Donald, he testified yesterday that he was asked by Mr. VanCallis to delete some emails, some text, possibly. Do you recall that testimony yesterday?
Yes.
Okay, and he indicated, obviously, that he said absolutely not. But was anything, you have methods to recover deleted text, right?
Well, I'm not a computer expert here, obviously, in
Right.
this case. When I did computer crimes, now things may have changed, okay? Keep that in mind. When dealing with computers, everything advances at a very fast rate. But when I was in, there was sometimes you could recover those and sometimes you could not.
Okay, do you know if an attempt was made to look at, let's talk about April's phone first, to see if any texts were deleted that she had made, and let's just keep it time frame July 24th, 2014. Do you know if any texts were found to have been deleted that day?
Well, looking at a report, when they dump the phones, their software tools get deleted, and non-deleted. I mean, it depends. Which ones are recovered, I can't say.
So as the officer in charge of this case, do you have any recollection of anything of significance that was deleted from April's phone?
Oh, no.
What about with Mr. VanCallis' phone? Same question. Was there anything that came to your attention that was deleted and you're like, aha, this is...
When it pertains to April?
Right.
Like if I thought that he deleted a text message from April or something?
Anything related to April?
No, there's nothing on his phone about that.
So the testimony we had yesterday where Mr. Donald VanCallis indicated that there was some talk about deleting because of the weed activity, that would not have been anything that the jury needs to be concerned about having to do a connection between April and James, to the best of your knowledge, correct?
Well, there was a text message that Donald sent James
Home, right?
home,
Right,
and that was 6:44,
right.
which indicated he was not at Donnie's house. That would just be common sense.
Okay, but my question was that this reference that we had to deleting messages was having to do with the weed activity and the connections that these people do, right? Isn't that what Mr. Donald VanCallis testified to yesterday?
No, he never said that.
No, sorry. Okay. This Christopher Lynch, did you know who that is?
Yes, I know the name. I do not know him personally.
Okay. And this is another person who was asked to provide DNA, correct?
Correct.
And do you know why he was asked to provide DNA?
The FBI agents who interviewed him, he said he had seen April walking, well, he didn't say April, he said a girl walking a dog. He couldn't really identify her at 6:14, 6:15 down Fulton. And the FBI agents who talked to him at some point thought something was odd. And
If something was odd.
something odd about him.
Okay.
And so they just asked for his DNA by consent, which he gave, no problem.
What do you know about his demographics? Is he a young fellow? Is he a youngster, more April's age?
Well,
our age, if you recall.
He's not an old man. He's not 80-something. He's not a young kid. So I want to say, of course, I'd be guessing at this, I want to say like, I don't even know, middle age. Middle, meaning 30 to 40 maybe, I don't even know.
Okay. Did he have further involvement after this DNA was acquired from him and it came back negative, correct? Or came back no association?
Correct.
And after that, was his involvement completed, or was there further involvement?
No, he was not tied to this case in any way.
Did he seek further to get involved, if you recall?
Well, that was part of the problem, is that he kept calling the same agents over and over again.
Okay. And that's part of the reason why the FBI thought that he's too eager to get involved, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And now, let's go to Mary Stein for a few moments if we could, okay?
Okay.
You were here during her testimony, right?
Yes.
She indicated that she called the police and that she gave a description, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And she indicated that she gave a description of the person and the dog, right, initially? Whatever that description was, she described the dog that she thought she had seen as well, correct?
Correct. She saw the dog, she saw April, and she saw James.
Oh, who she states to be James, correct?
Yes, that's what she said.
Okay, that's what she said. Now, then she also indicated that she saw the composite, correct?
Correct.
And that composite, she says, well, I think, ladies and gentlemen, the jury can see themselves, that composite is not James VanCallis, correct?
Well, you're asking my opinion?
Yes.
I think the eyes are dead on.
But the rest of it, there's no facial hair, right?
Right, when we got that
Well,
composite...
no, I'm just
Okay.
going to take you step by step. Mr. Daly will get up
Okay.
here and
All right.
do whatever he wants to do with you. So let's go step by step. There is no facial hair in that composite, correct?
Right.
And
There
just
is
to
not.
be straight, Mr. Buchanan was the first person I ever heard to refer to eyebrows as facial hair. We're not talking about eyebrows. There are eyebrows on this person, correct?
There's eyebrows on the composite?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So by facial hair, we're talking about there's no whiskers, there's no
Right,
beard?
there was no
Assessed.
there's no goatee in that composite.
Okay. In addition to which, the hair is kind of looks like a perm type, but for lack of a better word, right? Curlier and more standing
It's
up?
curly, yes.
Okay, curly. And now, at that point, were you involved in this case?
Yes.
Did Ms. Stein, in any of your notes, did you ever contact you that you know of, or anybody in law enforcement directly and indicate that that composite is not what she saw in that individual?
She apparently talked to my partner, Neil Donahue, about it.
Do you know that firsthand, or are you...
Well,
that
that's
from her
just the
testimony?
information.
I'm sorry?
That's just the information.
Well, when you say just information, you mean from Ms. Stein's testimony?
Right, I wasn't contacting people directly in this case.
Okay, well, you know what I'm asking you is that this indication that the person that Mary Stein saw did not resemble that composite, is that information that came to you from Mary Stein when she indicated this the other day in her testimony?
I don't, first of all, I don't understand the question, the way he just phrased it. Second of all, I think what he's trying to ask is an answer that it was information that was relayed to her.
So let's see what the question is. So rephrase your question.
Okay. Well, you said that you had information. So what was that information that, I think you used the word information. What was your meaning of the word information?
That she did not agree with that composite completely.
Okay, and this is information that you got from when she testified here, correct?
Correct.
So not from Detective Donahue saying, hey, she called me on Tuesday and said that they didn't match, correct?
Well, he mentioned it also back originally.
Does that appear anywhere in your reports?
No. Well, I wouldn't have written a report what Donahue told me.
Okay, now you're a seasoned law enforcement officer, right?
Yes.
Okay. And there's an old saying called hot on the trail, right? Meaning that the trail is really important to be, bless you, Dave, to try, I mean, that time is of the essence, right? That you want to try to do things as soon as possible, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if a person that claims to be eyewitness and then indicates that they see somebody that doesn't look like the composite, is that information that you think you'd want brought to law enforcement's attention as soon as possible?
Well, I can explain how that occurred if you let me.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
When the information came in of our witnesses, Mary Stein and the Spinellas, specifically Amy Spinella, I knew both of them had seen his face. We had one composite sketch artist, and I had to make a choice. I chose Amy Spinella. Now, it was a 50-50 chance, and Amy was a little farther away when she saw him than Mary Stein. But I made the choice, and we weren't going to go back and now have it redone.
And that's your explanation, correct?
Yes.
Does it say anywhere in your notes that that Amy Spinelli saw this person from a greater distance than Mary Stein did?
Yes, because she said,
Well, I'm asking in your documents and your information, not what your interpretation is. Do you have anything indicating the distance that Amy Spinelli specifically stated she saw this person from, and something that indicates the distance that Mary Stein saw this person from, and something further indicating that the distance that Amy Spinella saw this person was greater than the distance that Mary Stein saw?
Wow, if that wasn't a compound question, I don't know what was. But I have no idea where she would start. So can we break the question down inch by inch?
Do you have anywhere in your notes what distance Amy Spinella saw this individual from?
in her written statement, there's an estimate that she gives how far she thinks
And
he's
do you
away.
recall what that estimate was?
I don't recall off the top of my head.
Would you like an opportunity to look at your notes? Or do you have some rough guess?
What's in there, I don't know. It was the point where she's on the path and he's in the bushes. And I was just saying, because I know the distance April's body was from the path, that was about 27 feet. That's where I'm getting that number from.
Okay. Now, do you have anything in your records, or do you have anything in your recollection that indicates what distance Mary Stein saw this person from?
My impression was elbow to elbow,
Well, what gave you that impression? Did she ever say that?
because she rode right by him.
Well, didn't Ms. Spinelli also pass him by?
When he had the helmet on.
Isn't it true that now you're trying to somewhat discredit Ms. Spinelli because she indicated clearly that James VanCallis was not the man that she saw?
Judge, objection, that's argumentative. That's what he's going to argue to the jury, but that's
I
not
agree,
appropriate.
that question's argumentative. Sustained.
I'll withdraw that question. You don't have anything specific, mathematical, quantifiable that indicates the distance these two ladies saw the person from, correct? It's your recollection and your interpretation based on the distance of April from the trail, the 27 feet, elbow to elbow, and things of that nature, correct?
Whatever they testified to is what I'm sure happened.
But right now, as you sit here and answer these questions, you're not in a position to indicate how much closer Mary Stein was than Amy Spinelli, correct? Are you ready to say that to any kind of certainty?
I can say that Amy saw what she did at a farther distance than Mary did.
Now, as part of the investigation, was the SUV also taken into custody? That's the one that we've seen Mr. VanCallis stand next to a time or two.
I know it was searched and vacuumed. Was it? I'm not sure if it was towed in. I can't recall.
This morning we saw some videos and still shots from those videos of Mr. VanCallis wearing different or the same pair of shoes, correct?
The same shoes, yes.
The same shoes. That's your recollection. Black and white pair of shoes, correct?
Correct.
Did you look at all the video that was on his telephone
Yes.
and on his computer?
Yes.
Was there any other sources that I may have missed? Was there any other sources, or was that basically the primary source of where you obtained these videos?
Just his computer and his phone.
Okay. And did it show him wearing any other shoes?
If it did, I didn't notice.
So just so we're clear, the ladies and gentlemen of the jury should not draw the conclusion that the only shoes in any of those videos were the black and white shoes that you and Mr. Daly showed the jury today, correct? There were other shoes that he had on in different videos, pictures and stills. Is that correct?
I can't recall. I don't specifically saying, oh, those are different shoes.
So is it your position that, well, there were other shoes that he had in other videos, correct, that were not shown to the jury? Is that correct?
I don't know if there were or there weren't. I mean, I didn't take note of them.
Okay, so you chose or you opted to indicate to the prosecution the ones that were black and white that seemed to match the ones that have to do with the theory of the case, correct?
Yes, because it's important in this
Because
case.
that was your focus, correct?
Correct.
Ma'am. Detective Keith, if that's possible, could you put on the Cots video? That's the one at the home on Jefferson. Actually, the stills from Mr. Haverhill yesterday, the one that indicates the motorcycle that he did the recreation on, and the shot from the video. Sorry, I don't remember what that exhibit was. Yes.
167, just for our record.
Thank you. That shut off? Apparently. I didn't touch it. Detective, you have seen this diagram before, correct, this picture?
Yes,
Okay, and you have seen the actual motorcycle in person as well?
yes, I have.
Okay, and you've also actually seen the cost video, correct, this for lack of a better word,
Yes.
the video that this gave. If I recall correctly, which one is this?
This one is the original, taken on 7/24/2014.
Is that there, the date? Oh.
No, I just know.
Oh, I saw you pointing.
And then this is the test video.
Would you point out to me where the fenders are on the two bikes?
Here is a white fender here. A white fender here.
Now, you're talking about the two white spots here on the rear, correct?
Right, there's like a white, and then there's like a black and white again. White, a small section of black, and then white again.
Okay. Do you see any blue and white on the front, like the shocks and the fenders that we had seen in the pictures of Mr. VanCallis' motorcycle?
No, it's pretty dark right here.
And same with this one, correct?
Yes.
So we can't tell if there's any blue or any white, correct?
Well, there's white in this area. There's a, looks like to be a headlight, maybe a reflection of here, that's white.
Okay.
And there's no,
There's no white that sticks out, correct?
right, in this,
Okay. And in this one, there's a spot there, right? A white spot?
a white spot here, right here, this is a reflection of something, a curve maybe.
We know that's not the headlight because Lieutenant Abro indicated that the headlight was inoperable, right?
Correct.
Would you agree that that spot seems to be in the same spot as the headlight here, or no?
What, this spot?
Yes.
No, that's like in the background.
Okay.
That's like, this is the shadow of the trees, this is sun coming through the trees, maybe the sidewalk. There's a sidewalk right here.
And there's some white right here, right? There's something that's going, this way is horizontal, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then this way is vertical. So there's like one going up and down, one going
There's
sideways.
white right here, there's white this.
Okay, and there's white here going sideways, but there's no white going up and down here, correct?
Right, this looks like a shoe here,
Well,
perhaps. This could be the leg and here's the shoe.
well, you're guessing that, right? I mean, you don't know that definitively, correct?
Well, it would fit.
Well,
But you're talking about the bar.
that's your position. Let's talk about this. There's a bar here that goes sideways, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then here there's a bar or something. You want to call it a shoe, but there's something that goes up and down and it's kind of whitish, right?
Correct.
And that does not appear here, correct?
Right. This is black.
Okay. If that's the headlight, can you tell where the fender is? Would it be just below, just above, or just above the tire? If you could tell me.
Well,
in the
this
picture.
is the reflection of the wheel.
Okay.
The wheel would come around like this, and then the fender should be right above it.
Something that we can't see exactly in this particular picture, correct?
Correct.
And is that the same
Yes, it's the same here.
the same dark spot?
Correct.
Okay. Hang on one second, please. Can you tell if these rims are black or silver on either bike? Or if they're the same?
Well, there's a lot of light reflecting here.
Right.
Gives you maybe the size of the wheel, but
But there's no way to definitively tell if both of these are either white or silver, correct?
talking about the rims?
The rims, yes, sir.
No.
Okay. And do you see any writing? Suzuki, Yamaha, Honda, anything like that at all? Or even traces of any writing on either bike?
Well, mind you, I know this is VanCallis. This is the test video.
So there is writing right here.
Okay. Now, does that writing appear there?
No.
Okay. Hang on 1 second. Detective Carter, on one of these, I believe you said this was the original, right? This is the one that you're
the test
saying is...
video.
Okay. Can you make out a hoodie on the person that's the subject of, on top of the motorcycle in the call video?
A hoodie to that detail, level of detail, a hoodie, no.
Okay. Can you at least, no matter what the hoodie was, can you tell if there's any writing? I mean, even if you couldn't make out a hoodie per se, if there's writing on the arm, you'd see some...
Well, okay, we're going to have to say, well,
Composite.
this is the head,
Okay.
this is the body, this is the leg coming forward, and goes down. So this would be the shoulder area. There's something white there that goes down.
And do you see that?
Well, he wore all
Well,
black.
that's right, you wore all black, okay.
And he's a little shorter. Like,
Okay. And if I'm not mistaken, it seems like there's considerably less shadow here than here. Right here, it seems to be about 60-70% of the screen is shadow. Here, it seems to be maybe 40-45%.
well, they're both in the shadow. The bikes are both in the shadow.
Okay, but you get, is that a characteristics of these photographs, or the actual scene that this seems much brighter and then the shadow is less? Here, the shadow is more intense and the sun is less. Is that a characteristic of the photographs, or was that the way it was in the actual scene?
We just used the same video, so it is what it is.
Thank you. You can take that down. Detective Keith, thank you again, sir. Did you look at the K-Swiss shoes that were turned over to the police?
Did I look at them?
Yeah. Did you analyze them in any way? Not scientifically analyze, but just take a look.
Did I personally take them out of the bag after they was sealed and everything? No.
No. Do you know if there was ever any oil found on you? One way or the other?
No, there was no oil.
There was no oil, or you don't recall anything?
There was no testing of oil on those shoes.
So we don't know if they had oil on them or did not have oil on them, correct?
Correct.
In looking for videos of Mr. VanCallis with black and white shoes, do you recall seeing any videos of Mr. VanCallis with the K-Swiss shoes that he did supply?
No.
Not a single shot?
I can't remember saying to myself, oh, there he is wearing the K-Swiss shoes.
And just so, ladies and gentlemen of the jury can follow this the way I'm thinking about it, is that you were looking for black and white shoes. You weren't really looking to see if he's taken. You weren't looking for videos of him wearing red shoes or purple shoes or anything like that, right? You were focused on him wearing any shoes that were black
Right,
and
to
white.
set up a timeline for when he was wearing them.
I'm sorry?
Right, to just look for the black and white shoes and with the timeline.
Do you know, was Crystal Stadler allowed back in the VanCallis house after she left to retain her belongings or to get things from the home?
Yes, she was.
Did you or anybody else in law enforcement accompany her on that trip?
I did not.
Do you know if anybody did?
Not from the task force on the Millsap case.
When you got to the scene, this is on July 24th, how was the crime scene protected from contamination? I believe you indicated when you got there, the first responders were there, the fire department was already there, correct?
Correct.
And they had, for lack of a better word, quarantined the area?
Correct.
Okay. So what steps, if you know, were taken to protect evidence from contamination at that point?
They had already secured the scene, and there was an ambulance. When I came up to the scene, it was on Omo Road where the trail crossed, and there was an ambulance there with 2 firefighters, and then further in there was more people keeping everyone out.
Okay, you know, there's that thing we always see on TV, the yellow crime scene tape. Do you know if that was put up when you got there?
No, there was no crime scene tape.
Do you know if it was eventually put up, or?
No.
Now, this car wash video that you got from the city of Armada that you talked about, I think, did you say, I don't think you said a name for that car wash where we saw the video. Did that have cameras looking at all angles or just at the bay, as you indicated?
It had a few cameras facing Fulton, and then there was one in the rear, but it faced down.
So you're not prepared to tell this jury that if any vehicle passed by that car wash, it would have been caught on one of the cameras, correct?
If there was a vehicle on Fulton, that camera catches it dead on.
Okay, but not necessarily on Fulton. Any vehicles around it. I mean, it could have went north or south, east or west. Fulton runs north and south, right?
Correct.
Okay. So you're not trying to tell them that the whole parameter was on view, correct?
Yes, it was.
Well, I thought you just said that one camera was pointed down. When you say pointed down, down to what?
Well, there are several cameras. The ones that are faced out the rear faced the parking lot, but didn't go farther beyond that into, let's say, the granary area.
Okay, so if they face the parking lot, they would be showing the road, right? Because they're facing down to look to see if anybody's... Is that, when you say
The camera, the one that I talked about where it's the bay, it's a camera that's faced horizontally out. There's another camera that faces kind of southwest. There's another camera that goes out, points to the back, the rear, capturing the rear parking lot.
And I know you said that you asked them for a certain time frame, correct? Of videos when you went to these places, the car wash and the towing company, correct?
Right.
And I believe you indicated you asked for 10 minutes either way of 618, is that correct?
No, that was in reviewing for the time period of 618. I went 10 minutes either way.
Okay, but as far as obtaining, you obtained for what period of time?
Hours before and after.
So let's just say that at 6:30 is operable time, so maybe from 5 to like 9 or something?
Probably 4 to 9.
4 to 9, okay. And did you view both of these from the car wash as well as the towing?
Yes.
Okay. And were they continuous, or were there pieces where, you know, where it cuts off or loops every so often, or was this continuous video?
Continuous video.
And so you watched what boils down to almost 10 hours or so.
Over the course of this investigation, I think I looked at every minute on that.
Do you know if there's, how many times have you been out to the VanCallis property, if you recall?
I went out there once on the second search warrant, but I did not go inside.
Okay, when you went there on the second, was that on the second search warrant, was that during the day, if you recall?
Yes.
It was daylight, okay. And the VanCallis household, for lack of a better phrase, is in a rural area, is it not, of Goodles?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see any hay out that way?
I don't know if I recall seeing hay.
It's not unusual to see hay in that area, is it? Because it's a rural area. There's pigs, there's dogs, there's animals.
I remember a lot of twigs. You know, I was going through the bushes and the grass, and I remember that well.
Remember there was testimony that James VanCallis was cleaning the dog cage on the 24th, right, from Crystal when she was here? Do you recall her indicating
I don't know
that?
what date she said, but there was some...
Indication.
That
And she had testified that day, when we were talking about July 24th, it would be that day, right?
I don't recall what day she said. She mentioned dog cages.
Did you actually see the pigs or where the pigs are kept?
No, I didn't.
You never saw the
I
pigs?
never... I was out in the fields, I'll put it that way.
Now, in this investigation starting, you get some information that some motorcycles are involved. Do you remember how many motorcycles came to be registered within the 1 square mile area of the village of Armada?
No, we didn't limit it to that. We did, I want to say, Macomb County, which was 111,000 motorcycles. Not specific to a brand or anything, just motorcycles.
Did you, at some point, try to narrow that down within either zip code or some area near the Macomb Orchard Trail?
Well, 111,000 was just way too much to go through. But going through all these, the 1,000 tips we had, I feel like we knew where every motorcycle was in that town.
And just so that we could get an idea, is there ways that you could put parameters on this, whatever database you get up 111,000 and say, I just want the black motorcycles or just the white or just the enduros? Are there things that you could do like that?
I've never done it, so I can't say.
When you were at the crime scene initially, you did return to it several times since the first night that you were there at midnight, correct?
Yes.
Okay, do you recall seeing any hay or do you recall seeing any straw at that scene, at where Ms. Millsap's body was found?
No.
No hay, no straw, right?
Well, no, I don't recall.
We're going to take our lunch. We'll see you at 2:30, folks. Have a good
All
night.
right, for the jury.